Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again this week. And yes, again, this week I have someone quite amazing. My word of 2022, a lady I met on LinkedIn, actually, and, totally fell in love with her. She has so much to bring to the table. Let me introduce you to Sarah Maxwell. Welcome,
Woo!
Sarah.
Thanks for having me. It's like we're like long lost friends, me and you.
I know. So we started talking. We're, at each end of the world, basically. We started talking, and Sarah went to the same college that my kids went to. And I was just like, what? So she grew up in the neighborhood that I'm living in right now. So yes, we started exchanging, oh, do you know this place? And do you know that place? But basically, what got me so interested in Sarah is that at first we were talking about network marketing, because she'll mention it in a bit. She's a network marketing pro as well. But it's just her view of life. She seems so poised always. And I was just like, Sarah, what's your trick? So Sarah, what's your trick to be so poised?
Oh, that's so funny. Poised. I like that word. I'll take it. What's my trick? I think a lot of work.
Okay.
I think that I really value that. And we were talking earlier about being dramatic or not dramatic. And I said, I used to be dramatic. And so that for me, poised is the work to just have more peace in my life. I grew up very anxious in the sense that I was always thinking about things, analyzing everything. And so drama was like 24/7 in my head.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's always been a constant teacher and pushing me towards there must be more peace than this. And when I say peace, I feel like peace starts in your own mind. We have lots of conflict situations around the world right now. And even for me, like the 2 years of COVID was a real opportunity to practice poise. It felt like I was plopped in the middle of 50% of my friends think one way and the other 50% think another. And I was like, just observing everyone, observing myself when I was being triggered, noticing, oh, I'm making this decision because somebody's irritating me, And so I get irritated. I can be very unpoised, but I suppose it's my goal. One of my biggest goals is to not be in resistance.
And you know what? I love that. You'll probably, I have no doubt you will achieve it. But let's go back a bit into, what built, I should say, really your character and everything. So you were a pro volleyball player, proudly on Team Canada. So thank you for serving on our team and moving away from our team.
Like the army. I served. Who knew?
Exactly. But
in a bikini, no doubt.
Yeah, tell us a bit about your journey, because I think that athletes, and especially the one that make it to pro level, there's one common denominator, and it's really discipline, work, not giving up, because you don't get to those levels just out of raw talent. Raw talent will bring you so far, but at some point you need to have everything else that will actually keep you in those big teams. So talk to us a bit about your experience there.
I was definitely an obsessive kid. Ironically, I brought out this idea that I analyzed and I overthought things. Well, that's a double-edged sword because on some levels that helped me. It helped me obsess about first gymnastics And I would be out in my backyard. I remember on my picnic table, and I would just try backflips. I would do like really, yeah, my mom was a bit uncertain. But yeah, I would just try all these things, but not once, over and over and over, like very obsessively into my gymnastics. And then I was really tall. So then I thought, oh, I can't actually go all the way with this. And so I just moved into soccer. And then I realized, oh, all these soccer kids have been doing this longer than me. And so when volleyball came around, it was like, especially in Canada, we don't really start volleyball until grade 7, like 14 years old. And I was like, ooh, we're all starting on the same footing. So I took my obsessive gene and I just had a very good coach and I had a good surround. So this is if you have an obsessive kid, you kind of said it, like some factors come together, and it's like a very influential coach in a school that played volleyball. So I ended up with that sport. And it was a good sport because it's a thinking man sport, but thinking woman sport. You know, it has you, there's a lot of strategy and it's very technical. So that worked out really well for me because I was just in my backyard, throwing the ball up, serving against the wall over and over and over again. So for me, volleyball and representing Canada was a realization of a dream that started at the picnic table as this gymnastics dream. And the dream was to always go to the Olympics.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was always my thing. And I thought it was going to be indoor volleyball. And I'll never forget the day finally making Team Canada and, you know, indoor volleyball and the challenges that went into that. And this is interesting we're going to talk about manifestation soon, but I remember the moment that it was like, I'm here, I've arrived, but it didn't look or feel the way I thought it was going to feel.
Isn't that interesting, eh?
Yes.
Quite often we're like, when we think we're arriving somewhere and we're like, why don't I have this crazy feeling I was supposed to have? Isn't it because we forget it's a journey?
I think it's because I forgot. I didn't know yet. I was young. I didn't know it was a journey, but I also feel that the best thing I could have done was get there at age, what was I, 18, 19, because if I hadn't, I would have held out like, that's the dream. That's the dream. That's the dream. The best thing you can do is continue to go for it, because the minute you're, let's say, at that mountaintop, if you never climb up there, I feel like you just hold out this ideal your whole life. When I get there. Okay, so I'm up there and it's not feeling so good. It's actually quite windy up here. You know what it was for me? It was like, I actually thought there would be some Nirvana type team play thing going on. And my experience wasn't that, which drove me towards, okay, so I want to create my team a little bit more deliberately. So it had a great impact. It was driving me to the next summit, if you will, you know, a summit maybe that was less windy, or a summit that looked more like my dream. Because we all have these like specific little like things about our dream that I feel like we don't even verbalize. Often it's that I know what I don't want. You know, I knew that I didn't want conflict, for example. Like that was what I was experiencing in this indoor situation. But I didn't actually know what I wanted. I just knew, oh, I don't want that. Or I don't want dissension. That was a big thing for me. I was like, I wanted us all to like hold hands and sing Kumbaya, you know, this is what I envisioned. So I thought, well, geez, I'm going to need a sport where I can like rally the troops, do my Kumbaya. So beach volleyball, you hire your own coach, you know, you pick your own teammate, you move to the country you want to move to. We moved to Australia with my team. I was like, so, you know, by the way, I didn't like write this down. It was sort of happening and I was learning as it was happening. I was literally reacting from what I knew I didn't want.
That's pretty amazing.
I don't even remember the question. Did I answer it?
Yes. We'll rewind later to see if you did. 'Cause I'm just getting enroll with what you're saying because it's
Perfect.
interesting. Because first of all, I didn't know that beach volleyball, you could actually make your own team. But that's pretty cool. I just imagined my own team in my head.
Mm.
We're all like, it wouldn't work too much to win, but we would have fun. But then you moved to Australia. But talk about the Olympics a bit, because I know that were the Olympics before or after beach volleyball?
Oh, good question. So I had that Olympic dream, and for me, I could have been a gymnast. It could have been a runner. Like I was like, I just want to go to the Olympics. That was like my thing. To the point where in 1996, my coach, my indoor volleyball coach, used to say to me, if you want to do something, you have to surround yourself with people that have already done it. Such a good lesson, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, like, well, I don't know any Olympians. And he said, well, Atlanta is hosting 96. So this was like in 94. And I thought, so I don't know them, but Atlanta's kind of close, North American anyway. So I ended up, this is so funny because once you kind of start visualizing or even imagining, just like I wasn't like, I didn't have a vision board or anything, but in my mind, I was like, ooh, this 96 situation. So I met a guy who said to me, I'm volunteering. And I went, oh, how do you do that? So anyways, he signed me up. Off I went to Atlanta, and they give you this, like, I look with a safari hat, and I was security. Can you believe this is so funny? This is before beach volleyball, by the way. And I was assigned to the beach volleyball venue.
There
So I
you
wasn't a
go.
beach volleyball player yet. So I went to Atlanta. I stayed with the most amazing family who I still speak to this day. And that was 96. And so Atlanta was my first experience of the Olympics. And so I didn't know this, but I actually had a photo with my future partner in life without even realizing. I didn't connect any dot. It was just an Australian player. And I also have a photo with her brother in 96, and we didn't meet or get together till 2000.
How crazy is that?
That's
Because she went to
actually
the
really
Olympics.
weird. So
So,
she was competing in 96. That was her first Olympics. And I was getting photos with tons of people. So there was no recollection of that photo. We got that photo out about 5 years ago. My brother-in-law found it. We don't remember.
wow, that's crazy. So,
That's
few
synchronous.
lessons in there. Life
Yeah.
will bring you where you need to go when you visualize where you want to go as well. Second
Mhm.
lesson, take pictures with everyone you meet. You never know. You never know which one is gonna, you know, pay. It's funny because you say that, and I just had a flashback. My son, when he was younger, was so much into hockey and hockey cards and hockey everything. And, there was like this goalie that today he's like the star. But back then he was just like new on the team. And my son said, I really like him. And I'm like, well, go take a picture with him. Like, no one is taking a picture with him because everyone was after the big ones. And he
Mhm.
went. And funny enough, now 15 years later, like he's the number one goalie for our team and blah blah. But so yes, this lesson is really good. Go after the ones that are. But so the person we're talking about is Natalie
Yes.
Cook, no S,
Yeah.
who you ended up marrying.
I know.
And
That
the
bizarre.
yeah, I know. But what I find very, I want to say funny, but it must have been so interesting, and I would have loved to have like the play-by-play. You were on the Canadian beach volleyball team, and she was in the Australian beach volleyball team. She had won the gold medal. You hadn't yet. And you guys were playing one against the other while you were together.
I know.
How
This
was
is very
that going?
uncommon. You know why it's uncommon? Because it's terrible. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So she had been playing for a while. So she was like, had won a bronze medal in 96. And then in 2000, I watched on TV, like everybody did, the Olympics at home. where was I living in 2000? Oh, in Vancouver. So I went to university in Vancouver. So I remember watching and cheering for Australia because they were the underdogs. And the commentator was telling us, you know, this team has never beaten Brazil in their whole career. And here they are in the finals. So it's like they have no chance. So every point they make, you're like cheering for them. And they were actually behind. So you had to cheer really loud. And then they ended up winning on their home beach, you know, of Bondi. So it was like, wow, you know, what, you know, imagining what must that have been like for them. And here, you know, being married to Nat for over 20 years now, it's amazing to like be able to recreate, like fill in all the gaps of that story. Cause I did as a watcher go, imagine what that would be like. So my beach partner and I, we're just starting out. And the connection to Nat is that we were on a world circuit and we used to play every week. We go to a different country, like we go to Brazil, all the countries go to Brazil. Then we go to China. Everybody goes to China. So of course you get in relationship with the English speaking countries. Nat was very generous with her methodology, like what sports psych she used, what coach, what physiologist, you know, all these kind of things that for a new team, like a new Canadian team, we were just soaking it up. We're like, tell us more, you know, just so hungry to learn. And so she invited us to Australia to use her coach. She was at, I think there was an injury or something. So we ended up coming to Australia after she'd won gold. She was taking some time off and we trained with her new beach volleyball partner. So basically with her coach, there was 3 of us and we like went through the trenches with this new partner. So she won a gold medal with someone who retired. And then it was a new up and comer that she was going to play with. Anyway, so we had this like 3, you know, the 3 of us, so here's a little trick about beach volleyball. You wear the sunglasses because when it gets too hard and you're crying, because would be often, we would cry during sessions, the tear, you know, they didn't know you were crying until the tear would roll down your face and you could quickly wipe it. Because it was so intense. This coach was no joke. Like he changed my life. Like he was very Zen. This is what I say to this day. I didn't know what the word Zen was back then, but okay, here's the poise. I learned about poise on the sand because I thought I was there to learn about volleyball, but I was learning about timing. I was learning about I was learning about rhythm. I was learning about the breath. I was like, this guy was just something out of a book. It was amazing. So all the drama in my life, I was learning how to have less drama through running on the sand. It was to this day, I think it's the best learning environment I've had because he would say to us, okay, so if you want to run, you know, our court, you know, 8-9 meters at the time, 8 meters. So if you want to run 8 meters and you try to run as fast as you can, imagine it like a truck in mud. What happens when you rev the engine?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with the tire when you rev an engine like that?
It just spins.
You spin. And do you go forward or do you go deeper?
Deeper.
Yeah, the same with beach volleyball, same on the sand. This is a life learning, you know, and he always did that. He always had us see that when you try, like when there's a situation and you want to get somewhere fast, you actually want grip. You want to be on top. You know, you want to like actually be able to like pounce versus dig deeper in. And that's sometimes like when you think about drama, we dig deeper in. That's what my whole analysis dramas were about. Digging deeper. And next thing you know, you dig your own coffin, you know? And so these were things that were, yes, I was trying to get my 8 meters across the court to dig a ball, but ultimately I was also trying to have more peace in my life. I was also trying not to dig holes in my life and in my relationships. So he was like that. He was always making those connections.
And I think that, you know, you just touched on, there's 2 things I want to come back. The first one is that you touched on the fact that when you want to become better, whether it be at sports or anything, sometimes it's not necessarily the activity that you need to focus on, it's you. You need to grow to get to a level of growing whatever, whether it be your business. now I understand whether it be you as an athlete, because I've never been to that level. But to grow, you need to grow inside and you need to be at peace with yourself. And, you need to settle with yourself before being able to attack anything else, right?
100%, because most of us have it in us. Like one of his big messages was like, if you've done it once, you can do it again. But as an athlete, what you notice is you start searching for it, like you do this amazing shot. And so you're like, ooh, I want to do that every time. So you start searching, like, where is it? Where? We even use that language. And I think we do it in business. Like, remember that time I did that? Where is it? So we like on this search. And it's almost like, when you see a cat chasing its own tail, the tail is actually attached to the cat. And so he would say to us, it's in there. And so as to what you just said, it's like your state of being, it's like the work is not the work I thought it was. The work is not in the efforting, it's in the allowing. Because the way that I got to where I was being on that court with him, effort got me there. I was the person running as fast as I could, but all of a sudden it wasn't going to get me to the next step. That was what got me from amateur onto that court. But if I wanted to be top 10 in the world, that wasn't going to work anymore. And so his was about rhythm and it was all this allowing stuff. And to this day, those are the messages that have helped me in pregnancy, in birthing, in business, in mothering, like all of that stuff has carried me in the next chapter.
And, well, before touching on that, because I really want you to touch on the fact of the importance of a coach. But we'll come back to this in a few minutes because, the journey you had was like having a business, being an entrepreneur, because you had to, like, from what I'm hearing, it wasn't cheap to travel from one country to the other, to go play against one. So it's really something you had to build as well to make it viable. Unless your parents are millionaires and you forgot to tell me.
Yeah, no, I think I want to give a lot of the credit to my teammate. She was my best friend. I always played with the same person, Marie-André Lassard. So she's a Quebecer. She went back home. So she, this pertains to coaching. She basically and ultimately coached me on how to treat what we were doing as a business. Because initially, there were no, being a professional athlete in Canada, if you're not a baseball player or hockey player, which basically meant you're a guy at the time, was unheard of. I never heard another athlete say, I'm a professional athlete. Even if they went to the Olympics, they would not say that because they were working and they were doing lots of things. And they would say things like, I play rugby or I'm trying to think. I snowboard, they're saying that, but they're not a professional snowboarder. It wasn't happening yet. So that was part of our move to Australia. But backing it up a second, the entrepreneurial venture and hiring our coach and doing these things was she had a business degree, but I do think her mind she was more organized. She had systems, so we would go out and we had donators to start with. We didn't have sponsors, it was like, okay, if we're not going to get a big sponsor, how can we have a whole bunch of little, we call them like bricks. And what are we giving back to the brick? What are we actually giving back? So she was what facilitated us eventually getting our first big sponsor, which was actually going around Canada. It was a self-esteem tour for women.
Wow.
We loved it. Like that was right up. That was brilliant for us. And that was really great for the company. That was our big win. So we could actually be professional. And Australia did help us with that because in Australia, it was a little bit more common language to say you were a professional athlete. So that did kind of allow us to expand and evolve. But I want to talk about the coach thing because she was coaching me in a way in that environment around entrepreneurship. But when I think about this coach and the Zen that he was bringing to my life, it would have been impossible to take someone like me, who was an efforting person, into someone who had rhythm. Like, are you kidding? Without a coach, impossible. Because I was so stuck in the way that I was doing it. I only knew that way. And all the crying that I talked about, that we, by the way, everybody had their challenges. These were just my unique crying events. It's so hard to give it up. Like, it was like, it's like this pull between like the way I've always done it. And so I found that really, really challenging. And without someone who could like lovingly say, hey, imagine this, I mean, I know that I never would have been able to traverse
No,
that.
and you're touching on a good point there as well, because and I think you can. It's easy to picture it because it's sports. So we're like, okay, yes, sports when it gets really hard and physically it's hurting and you get frustrated, you cry. But for me, it's like I related a lot to business because yes, I'm a businesswoman, but also because I'm not an athlete. No, I play soccer, amateur, but anyway, my point to this is that in business we're not going to necessarily stop and start crying because it's not hurting physically or whatever. Quite often, like when something is not working, it's emotional, it's like mental, but you keep it to yourself. It higher your stress level, it higher your anxiety, but you don't start crying. But we don't see ourselves like as needing a coach as much because it's not as physical as a sport. But in both of these things, what I want to get to is that you need to be coachable. So when you say you were crying because it was hard to let go, that was also a decision from you to say, I'm going to listen to this guy. Because you could have also resisted to whatever he was saying and stay stuck where you were, but you also chose to be coachable.
You know, what's great about sport, and that we can all take a page out of in life, is that I'm laughing when you say I'm coachable, because you need a coach to see that you're not coachable.
Okay.
Because I would say I'm quite hard-headed, but that's the best. Like in sport, if you don't have a coach, you're worried about your where you're at. And so it's like success is like, okay, so we have a coach now. Like, imagine athletes going to the Olympics without a coach. Like, we feel sorry when we hear those stories. We're like, oh my gosh, like that's just terrible, because it's a sign of success, because we almost never see gold medalists without a coach. So what I'm saying is that it's second nature in a sporting environment to have a coach. And so being coachable. So sometimes when I work with people in the nutrition space, I have this form. This is so interesting. And on the bottom, it basically asks you to like rate your level of coach. Like, are you coachable? And I love it. People write like that they're not coachable. And I'm like, that is so interesting to me. It's like, okay, you're honest. It's great. Not everybody writes that, but it's fascinating because it's such a great question, even when somebody says that. So just like me, I learned a lot by seeing how hard-headed I was, because like at the end of the day, you start to get that you're suffering. Like when I coach people in life and in business, I often say to them, I can't want this for you more than you want it for yourself. That gets revealed when you have a coach. That moment comes when you actually kind of start to see that, oh yeah, I hired you. Like, yeah. We kind of act like, so this is what we kind of, even as beach volleyball is great because we actually pay them. So there's a closer relationship to like, I chose this, but now I'm acting like an insolent child. I'm having a tantrum about you. So it does happen. You're not always coachable. You're not always listening. But that's
I just had a light bulb going on when you said that, because if you would ask me on the level of 1 to 10 how coachable I am, it would probably be -4. But that's because since I'm little, I always rebelled against authority.
Yes.
I have that in my report cards that I was a Swedish child. I was very smart, but I had an issue with authority. I had the same comment when I was like 30 something from my last boss. So for me, coach was equivalent to authority. It was someone who would tell me what to do.
Yeah.
The big difference of being coachable is realizing that you hired that person because you came to a point of deciding, I need help to go to the next level. So it's you accepting the help of the other person, but it's not authority. It's help,
And I do think it's a journey. Like every time you notice the trigger of authority, you're growing. I have it. So I don't think I go, oh, like we paid him and we were still mad at him. Like, girl, like this is logic says we should be accepting. But what I'm trying to let people know is don't let that be the decision maker. Like, am I coachable? Oh, no, I'm not coachable. I shouldn't get a coach. It's like, yes, you should, because then you get opportunities. There's like so many opportunities to grow because you're like, whoa, look how much, like, I'm so irritated right now. Like, don't tell me what to do. Right. I have issues with authority. I'm going to grow. Where is that stopping me in my life? Where, and how is this not about this moment? Meaning, how am I like a 5-year-old right now? When I'm saying I'm tantruming, right? These are childhood things. I'm like, where am I doing this in my business? So it's impacting me as an adult and I'm still acting like a 5-year-old. But now I'm safe and I'm okay. And I can actually, when I haven't individually coached someone in a while, but it still rings true when I used to talk about the GPS. Like I GPS myself all the time. I say my age, I'm like 44 years old. I'm in Brisbane. I'm on my computer. I'm in my office right now. It kind of like positions me out of 5-year-old. And I'm like, okay, I'm here right now and I'm safe and I'm okay. So now I can powerfully speak. Nobody's attacking me, like there's no lion attacking me. I'm in my office. I'm in Australia, so it's like a positioning so that I can create, because I'm about what am I creating for my life? Because if not, I'm actually living my past and putting it into my future. But if I'm actually not present and here right now, it's very hard to create from a blank canvas,
Yeah.
If I don't do that, then I'm like bringing all of my crap with me. It's almost like I wear crap glasses.
I like that.
Everyone's authority. Everyone's trying to tell me what to do,
You should market that.
What, crap glasses?
Yeah. No, but I really like your GPS yourself, and it's true because in a GPS, you can enter whatever destination you want. If they don't know your current location, it can't bring you anywhere. But
that's the key, by the way. Way to get that. That's what you just said.
Well, it's because I've been told and I've learned. But I really want to bring, get to we could talk for hours, honestly. Like there's so much I feel like you can bring people, whether it be on a sports end, you worked as a, with couples a lot, you work in network marketing, you've done so much. But the one thing why I was inviting you today was to talk about an amazing program that you're doing, the Awaken Mama. So basically a program of manifestation. And I want you to talk to us about that a bit, and well, actually a lot, but also what made you focus on manifestation and how can you pass that knowledge on?
The hardest question I ever faced at the dinner party is, what do you do? Because, and then a really clever friend of mine uses this expression for what she does. She says, I'm a multi-hyphenate. Like, what? So basically, hyphen, hyphen, hyphen for I used to do this and I do this and like all these different areas. But in the end, they all center around dream creating. And now the new, like a fancy word is manifesting, and manifesting for me is merely turning a thought to a thing. It's like, and how I was telling you, I was anxious and living in my head and analyzing. That's thought. So I've got lots of them. So I became really interested in, I want to create things. Like, I don't just want to have thoughts about being in the top 10 in the world in sport. I want to actually like live it. I want it to a living, breathing entity. So for me, manifesting has been like always ever present. And I had so many mentors in the sporting environment, including my partner. And this course that I've created, like the 6 weeks, the 6 modules were really reverse engineering her gold medal, which was definitely manifested, which started as a thought. So she clearly put it out there that she was going to win a gold medal amidst the fact that she played a team that she never won before. All the odds won it. So I'm like, I need to reverse engineer that. And after that, I remember so for example, one of the steps is to create your new life story. So this is one of the steps that we do with the moms. And by the way, it could be with dads. It could be with business women. But moms, I mean, that's the environment I'm in. I have a 6-year-old. So I had a real connection to this transition in life. So I really wanted to work with moms, and I really love connecting and relating. And because it was my experience, it felt just really attuned. So the Awaken Mama, I focus in on the mom. But back to this, create your new life story. I remember in 2003, I think, my partner told me about her exercise of doing that. And basically it was creating what you wanted into the future. So you could do it 2 years into the future. You could do it 5 years. You write the story as if it's already happened. So like, for example, if you're sitting down, you're just like, I'm sitting here, and you put the year. I'm sitting here in the year 2027. And I'm reflecting on how amazing it felt to be in the top 10 and win these tournaments, or if you're in business, to reach this level, or relationally, like how you want to feel with coworkers, like to have this kind of community around me, to have this kind of support in the working space, to, to carry this kind of, this kind of bank account. When I look at it, like really like stepping into it as if it's already happened. So there's a bit of act as if in there too. That's a module. But this actual written work, this is so powerful, because I found, so one of my key ones in 2003 was this idea of being in the top 10. At the moment of writing it, I was, I think, 37th in the world. This was a far bridge. I didn't want anyone to read that story, because I'm like, oh, who will they think I am? I even struggled in the first paragraph, and this is just an example of how our present reality often limits the things that we want in life. We're like distracted. So we just keep creating. These are the crap classes. We keep creating the same thing over and over again. Even like New Year's resolutions are resolving old problems. Crap classes. So it's like, I'm just keep doing the same thing. This body, I keep recreating the same body. Why am I doing that? Because reality is a big distractor. And my partner says this really cool thing. Sometimes you need to close your eyes to really see what's possible. That's ironic, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's so brilliant is because the present day reality, we see it as too concrete, as too set in stone. And so on that, by the way, this is the work. The work is in writing the story, not rereading your story all the time, but the actual writing of that story shifts the cells of your body. And these moms, like the stories of what becomes possible, they don't even believe it. It's not even a mantra. It's almost like the cells shifted, and then their reality started catching up. And I learned this actually, that the testimonials from these moms, I needed not get them on week 6. This was a mistake. I wanted to get them quick because that was efficient. I thought that was a good system. No, I needed to give it a month. at least. 3 months was even better. Because manifestation, that's just how it works. It's like you don't want everything. You know how we think we want everything instantly? Time is your friend, because remember that old story where everything you touch turns to gold? And that sounds like a really great idea until you touch your food and then it's gold and you can't eat it. You touch your mouth and then it can't move because it's, like time is your friend, allowing, that's part of the journey. So with these moms, I learned from them more about the evolution of manifestation and how thoughts turn to things. And they also arrived at some mountaintops. Like, for example, I had this one mom, this is a really interesting story. Her whole life, she wanted to write a book. So she's a successful businesswoman. She had in her mind, creating a book. That was a dream. So she signs up, through the course. She's like, yep. Okay, she signs up for this book writing course. She's now had 3 kids. The dream's been there for since she was 9 about this book. She starts the course and she is doing the stuff. And she's like, oh, I don't really like this. For since she was 9, she held that as her mountaintop, write the book. The minute she got out of that book writing course, she redid her website. She did about 100 other things that were moving her business forward, because this whole idea that it was about the book. So sometimes we need to experience, just like I did with International Team, we need to experience the thing to move on to the actual dream. I didn't actually intend that, by the way, in the course.
No,
that was what I've learned.
I get it 100%, because sometimes we focus on something thinking that's really what we want, until we start getting there and we're like, really?
Yeah. When we moved, my family, we moved for a year to Switzerland. That was a manifestation. And it was I wanted to live over in Europe. So this was a definite thought to thing experience.
Awesome.
And the best thing about that was, I feel a lot of people reflect on that and be like, that would be the dream, to take a year. We did vacation for a year. We set up ourselves financially so we could do that. Thank you, network marketing, these kind of things that are possible. This was great for me. It wasn't a fancy car. That was it. 3 months in, I got all my learnings and lessons about purpose. I'm like, I need to work with people and make an impact and make a difference. This is where the Awaken Mama course came out, my podcast, all of this stuff came from this vacation, because I realized, no, this living and going to the park every day and eating ice cream and chocolate croissants, I need to make a difference in the morning and eat a croissant in the afternoon, put it that way. But I didn't know that. I was like many, striving or dreaming about this year-long vacation. But damn, I was like, I need the balance.
It's funny that you say that, because I'm kind of glad that I realized that before having it. But you know how they say, I want to retire at 50 and just be done and travel the world and do all of this. I recognized by having 6 months off, a bit similar to you, except I didn't take it in Europe, but that no, I am a person of projects, and I love projects, and I love interacting with people, and I love helping people and all of this. And I don't think that there's an age that it's just going to turn off in me and be like, okay, done. Now you can retire. So now my new goals are, travel more, work my life, work my business around my life instead of the opposite. But the dream of not having a business anymore and just being totally free and just enjoying whatever, that's gone, because I realized That's not what I want, actually. I would probably find that boring. Not the first 3 months, because
Yeah.
obviously, it's all fun, but we all had a taste of that with COVID. So after a year, you're like 20 pounds heavier, and you're like, oh my goodness. But anyway, long story short, yes.
Agree.
Sometimes you start living your dream and you realize that's not really what I want.
Mhm.
And I love that you do those manifestation class with the moms. And in pre-interview, you also said, how many moms can't picture themselves going back to work after having a kid. And I
Mm.
was in that situation after my son. Like, I was like, I can't even apply to Tim Horton. It won't even take me. And yet I had my bachelor, but I couldn't see myself doing anything anymore because I had been home, and it's just another world. So just I wish there would have been that type of course back then that I could have joined other women, other mamas, and really be like, okay, that's how I feel, and I need help to see myself going further. Because,
I
like you
created
said,
the course for that, for
mm-hmm,
exactly you, because I had a friend like you who is so intelligent, had such like something to contribute, and something came over her when she had her child. And it's like she had like amnesia for her awesomeness. And I thought, okay, what? It didn't make sense to anyone around, but it was her own experience, just like yours. And watching her not only get the like go out and apply for the job, just become more empowered, it's watching her impact on other moms because we do these catch ups. And she tells this story about how she wouldn't even apply for that. It was a census job, not Tim Hortons, ironic. That story has really resonated with the newer moms coming in because they're like, yeah, that's how I feel. So this is not uncommon. I thought this was just, one person I knew. But, after I'm doing a course, I'm taking a course and being coached in a course called matrescence. And it's fascinating to learn about this period of having a child. It's like puberty.
mm,
It's actually, from an academic standpoint, it's mental, emotional, physical. We all know the physical changes, but we don't talk about the mental, emotional. And where I want to tap into that conversation is I feel that our purpose, our dream changes and shifts. And that's confusing. Because, for example, if you wanted to go and have the exact same job you had before, you don't feel the same. Your value, something is like literally the cells of your body have shifted, including those in your brain, including your heart cells. Everything's like changed to a new orientation. So being able to have a space where you get to like hold space for that, to acknowledge it, and then start to script and deliberately move from the new place is really powerful. When do moms have time for that, by the way? You need to like sign
yeah.
yourself up for a course to have time for that.
Yeah, I was going to say never, especially like when my two older ones were like when my second one was born, my son was a preemie, so he always acted a bit younger, and I had my daughter when my son was 2, and I remember when my daughter was 1, at some point I just started crying and I said, the only thing I'm doing all day is I change diapers and I talk baby language because I also lived in a new city where I knew no one. So when
Yeah.
my husband was at work, it was literally me and the babies. So, I adore them and everything, but yes, your validation and everything is not the same anymore because, first of all, they don't thank you for changing their diaper. They just reward you by stopping crying a few minutes. And then, the next day it's all to restart. So yes, it's definitely a huge shift. And I encourage anyone who's in that phase right now, just know you're not alone and talk about it with other moms because we all went through it. And for me, it started changing when I started expressing myself and realizing that, hey, I'm not alone who feels all of that. And that was 20 years ago, but now there's beautiful programs like yours, that, and it's online, Sarah, so people can reach you and join you online. And yeah, it's just amazing.
But one thing I want to say too, though, because I recognize that the mom who most needs this is also the busiest person or the most time poor. And one of the things that, we were joking before getting on this call was that I worked out right before coming on the call, and I was sweating so much I couldn't get my makeup to stay on, because I was like, even though the workout was finished, my cheeks were still red and I was sweating. So how does this relate to this course? Is that you don't, we hear 6 weeks. It's like we think we're going to like boot camp and we're like staying in a lodge together. Well, we're not. You come on for that concentrated period and you do work. For me, it's really important we do the work on the call. It's not homework. However, just like my workout, the shifts are happening after you leave the call. I call it integration, like integrating. Like one of the modules is about it takes a village, and it takes a village to raise a dream. And that's about the fact that we stay insular, we stay inside of ourselves. So, over the week, you're actually talking to your kids about your dreams. What? We don't do that. Our kids just tell us about their dreams to be Frozen and Elsa and, like to be a baseball player or a trucker, like what? We actually talk about what we care about. And vice versa, by the way, because then it stimulates this idea. So that's what I love about the course, is that it lives and it gets integrated into your life. So I think as moms, sometimes it's like we're so used to not having time for anything. And time, we have a module about time, because time is very relative. Because when you feel chaotic and frenetic, everything is chaotic and frenetic. It proves itself. But when you GPS yourself, you actually take a breath. You notice a tree. Like, oh, the tree is actually moving out there. That is a skill. That is something to be learned, just as much as chaos and frenetic is a learned behavior too. So inside of that, I just wanted to mention that around time, because sometimes the actual frenetic pace that we're operating at limits us from getting the help that we need and that we want.
I agree 100%. And, one thing that I coach a lot when I coach is that whether it be in business or raising your kids or whatever, we all have the same amount of hours in a day, but it's all how you use it and how you view it. And I think you said it perfectly. When you feel chaos and live chaos, you also create chaos. So it's good to have, a group that will give you perspective. And, it's being amongst people that also know how you feel. So I find it super beneficial. So Sarah, where can people join this group?
Yeah, I think the best place to go would be my website. So my business name is In the Game Coaching. So the website is inthegamecoaching.com. And In the Game is really about being on the court of your life versus watching it from the sidelines. And even sometimes if we think about motherhood and parenting, like what is it actually to be with my kids instead of watching it all happening from the sidelines? And there's some real distinctions between doing that. And in the game is, because I'm an athlete, people think it's a sport analogy, but it's not. I'm talking about the game of life. So this game that we all play, are we in it or are we watching it? So inthegamecoaching.com, when you first come up, I pretty much believe that you come to the course straight away. So you can have a look at all the modules and what it involves, or you can just email me, send me a message from there.
And I'll put all the information with the podcast. But to finish here, Sarah, and I will throw you under the bus for a second. You have a book coming, right?
Oh, I have a book? Oh my gosh. I feel I know what's happening here.
So Natalie didn't pay me, I promise. But I know
Oh
that
God.
you have this amazing project. So let's do some manifestation here and tell
Okay.
us, when is it coming out?
Ooh, so I put a date on it. Yeah, it's good to be specific.
Well, at least a year.
Okay. Yeah, within the year, for sure. Yeah, I got
No,
that.
I mean like
Oh,
at least 2022, 2023.
oh, I see. So yeah, it's a good, you're absolutely right in getting specific. Um, I was going to tell a funny story about get specific because when I created the relationship I wanted in my life,
Mm-hmm.
um, it has, this is a funny thing. So I hope everybody gets the joke of it, but I joke that I'm with a woman and then I just forgot to specify the gender because Nat is the first person I ever been with that was a female. And so that I always joke with my friends that, be specific, but perhaps it didn't matter. The
You
gender was
met
not
exactly who you wanted, but
exactly. It has all the qualities. I just didn't specify
the gender.
male. I thought it was obvious, but clearly life had other plans for me, which have been brilliant.
That's
Okay.
amazing. That's amazing. First of all, your book will be on
Okay, the
what?
book. So I had in my mind like December 2022.
That's
Is that too
amazing.
soon?
No, of course not. It's not too soon. And it's going to be on what?
So it's a relationship book. So it's, I'm into games, right? So I did a lot of, when I coach business and team trainings, I do it through games. So there's a name for it now, gamification, but
Oh,
I was doing it before it was called that. But basically, we learn a lot more when we're actually playing a game, and it's not like straight up coaching or analysis. There's fun to it, but we generally bring our most natural self when we're playing. We don't try to mitigate and, try to be right or do, it's hard when we're playing a game. We get into it. So it's games for couples and not sex games, just normal everyday games. For example, doing a puzzle with your mate. You can learn so much about the other person by doing a puzzle and how they tackle it. So it's basically sets up the game for you, but then it's debrief and it's examples of other couples. So it basically helps you reinvest in your relationship while it's not broken. This is my big thing. I am not your best coach when your relationship is broken. There are really good coaches for that. I'm really good at having your relationship be incredible, be amazing, thrive. I'm good at thriving. And so that's where, for me, it's like, this is kind of that little coach that can come in your house. So that's what it is. It's a book where you can do these activities. It's basically date night sorted.
awesome. Yeah. So I can't wait to have a signed copy.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you in advance.
You're going to help me bring it to life. So get ready. Thank you for being
December
part of my
2022, life. Sarah Maxwell. Games
ready for sale. This will be the key by February 2023. So
okay, we're gonna do a follow-up on this. So, and I invite all of our listeners to write it down because you will have to order yours February 2023. No, I'm pushing her a little just because when we met, she told me she had one chapter left to write and she was procrastinating on that chapter. I'm like, girl, just do it. But yeah, so she's a competitor. She's a winner. She's an athlete, so she needed that final push.
I know. I needed
in the public.
That's what my partner does for me. So thank you. You're such a good partner.
Yes. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being with us this week. You are a delight. What would you like to leave people with?
I think I would like people to know that it's never the wrong time or it's never too late to get started. So you're exactly where you're meant to be. And if you're listening to this, instead of wishing that it was otherwise, just from this exact place where you're at, if you can have the gratitude of what brought you to this place and be able to choose what you want to do next powerfully, I mean, that's all life is about, being really present and then catapulting off of the now. So I look forward to seeing what your step is, what you choose from that powerful place. Because, yeah, that's just what it's about. Just, like blank canvas, just paint, just put a brush stroke on there.
That's beautifully said. Thank you so much. And if you want to share your, where it's catapulting you, is that a word?
Yeah,
Maybe I
yes.
just, yeah, okay. So you can share at info@simplycaroline.com. You can also share your suggestions. If you know anyone I should talk with that should come on the show and share their life experience or whatever with us, please email me info@simplycaroline.com. Sarah Maxwell, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure. Say hi to Natalie, and we will see you soon for the launch of your book.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye.